What's up, guys? It's your boy Raj, and I'm here with your boys Elad and Ryan, and we're going to be looking at AP Statistics Chapter 3. And in this chapter, we're going to be talking about regression lines and scatter plots. And I just like to give a quick shout out to Miss Schultes for having us do this project. And so yeah, let's get right into it, guys. Let's have some fun.
All right, first, we're going to have to look at scatter plots and correlation. So before we begin, we got to go over explanatory and response variables. If we have a variable x that might help explain or even predict changes in another variable y, we call that x an explanatory variable and y a response variable. So, a scatter plot shows the relationship between two quantitative variables measured on the same individuals. So when we're looking at scatter plots, we got to use DOFs, okay? Direction, outliers, form, and strength. So in this graph that I provided over here, we can see that the direction is a positive correlation. There are no outliers, and the form is that the graph is linear. In addition, the strength is fairly strong since the points are close to each other. So let's talk about the correlation R. R describes the strength and direction of a linear association between two quantitative variables x and y. So, an R that is close to 1 or negative 1 shows a strong correlation, and a negative R means that the correlation is negative, and a positive R shows that the scatter plot is positive.
All right, let's go into section 3.2, which is talking about the least squares regression. So basically what a regression line is that it's a straight line that describes how a response variable y changes as an explanatory variable x changes. So it's important to know that the equation for the least squares regression line is y hat equals a plus bx, where a is the y-intercept and b equals the slope. So also, a key reminder is that y hat is the predicted y value. It is not the actual y value. So slope is the rate at which the predicted response y hat changes along the line as the explanatory variable changes. So basically, it's just the rate of change. For every 1 unit increase in x, y changes by this much. And it's important to avoid extrapolation, and this is the use of regression line to predict data outside the range of values. The reason that this is bad is because when making the regression line, you do not take into account the data outside the values, so the regression line does not count for that. So if we use data that is outside the range of values, then the y hat would be very wrong, and we should always avoid extrapolation. And now moving on to residuals. Residuals is basically the actual value versus the predicted value. And that's pretty much what the residual is. And the standard deviation of the residuals, which is S, measures the typical size of the residuals, and the coefficient of determination is also known as R squared, and it's the fraction of variation in the response variable that is accounted for by the least squares regression line. So let's move on to the next slide, and that's basically going to be a cheat sheet. So that the cheat sheet shows you the sentence frames that you should put on your test in order to get the complete amount of marks. So in order to interpret the correlation R, we can use that sentence structure where we're talking about strong, moderate, or weak, which is talking about like the strength of it, and positive and negative is talking about the form and explanatory and response variable. And also, it also has the sentence structure for S and R squared. This is another AP problem that you guys can do. From the 2017 AP Stats for your response question, and it's question number 1, and this is a really great problem for you guys to try at home. And some common mistakes is that you're not speaking in context when asked to interpret the slope. You can't say just like when x changes, y changes. You have to actually describe what the explanatory and response variables are. You need to use the word predicted when interpreting the slope. That is very important. And you always need to identify the strength of the regression line, like how strong, is it strong, moderate, or weak, or anything like that. And remember that residual is always actual minus predicted. You can remember that as an AP. AP are the people who give us these tests. So we need to remember that that's the residual. So that about wraps it up, guys. So I just want to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. We really want to get this video out there to other people so they can get inspired and to do more AP statistics problems. But for now on, sayonara.